A garden where everything was given, but nothing was free. A place built for obedience, not freedom. A paradise lined with rules, watched over by a God who withheld the one thing that could make us truly human: knowledge. One tree promised life, the other truth. We chose the wrong one. Or maybe we chose the only one that mattered, and for that we were cursed. They call it the fall, but it felt more like waking up. And the price of awakening was exile, shame, pain, and death. If you too feel the price of awakening, then check out Pantheon Apparel, our clothing brand inspired by myths, legends and folklore. We ship worldwide and are rated excellent on Trustpilot. Link in the description. The Garden of Eden is introduced in the book of Genesis, but it isn't explained. There's no blueprint, no map, just a claim that it was planted by God himself, somewhere eastward and filled with every tree that was pleasant to the sight and good for food. Two of these trees mattered more than any others: the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. One gave immortality, the other gave awareness. Eden wasn't a reward. It was a containment, a controlled ecosystem where humanity could live, provided it stayed ignorant. There was no death, no pain, no shame, but there was also no knowledge, no questioning, no understanding of good or evil. We were naked, and we didn't even know it. We lived like children under surveillance. It was peace by design, not by choice. The four rivers flowing from Eden, the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates, suggest a real geography, but also something more. In many traditions, a garden from which all rivers flow is a center, an axis mundi, where heaven meets earth. Eden fits that pattern. It was the crossroads of creation, a place where the divine and the human could coexist, conditionally. But that condition was obedience. Only one command was given: do not eat from the tree of knowledge. No explanation, no reason, just a threat. For in that day when you eat from it, you will surely die. This raises the question we're not supposed to ask. Why place the tree there at all? You don't test loyalty unless you expect betrayal. You don't introduce knowledge unless you fear what it might awaken. And you don't call it paradise if it cannot survive a single question. Adam was formed from the dust and placed in the garden to work and protect it. The garden was filled with abundance, but not freedom. Eve came later, formed from Adam's rib while he slept. She was the second human, the first to be born into a world already under law. Together they lived in innocence, in obedience, in silence. Then the serpent arrived without introduction. The text names it only as the most cunning of the creatures made by God, and it spoke only to Eve. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? The question forced her to speak the command aloud, to engage with it. We may eat from the trees, she replied, but not from the one in the center. If we touch it, we will die. Then the serpent revealed more. You will not die. Your eyes will be opened. You will become like gods, knowing good and evil. The serpent exposed a hidden motive. Knowledge wasn't forbidden to protect them. It was withheld to contain them. The command wasn't about safety, it was about control. Eve took the fruit. Then Adam. They saw themselves differently. They felt the weight of having crossed a line. And when God found them, he confirmed what the serpent had said. The man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Christian tradition later named the serpent as Satan, the adversary, the deceiver, the first rebel. Revelation calls it that ancient serpent and ties it directly to the devil. This reading transforms the Eden story into the beginning of spiritual conflict, a cosmic betrayal that shattered creation. Every word the serpent spoke came true. The fruit granted knowledge, God acknowledged the change. Other traditions tell a different story. In the Gnostic texts, Eden was a cage. The God who made it was the demiurge, a lesser creator who demanded obedience and feared enlightenment. The serpent was the liberator, a messenger of divine wisdom who gave humanity the only thing that could set them free: understanding. In this reading, the fruit isn't a trap, but a key. The fall is not a failure, but a jailbreak. So what, then, was the serpent? A liar speaks falsehoods, but this one revealed the truth. A destroyer corrupts. This one offered knowledge. The serpent didn't destroy the garden, it exposed its weakness. It spoke truth that shattered the illusion, that Eden was peaceful, only because no one had asked why. When they ate the fruit, no great disaster followed. The garden did not wither, but something changed within them. Their thoughts sharpened, their gaze shifted. They looked at each other and no longer saw safety. Something had fractured. Shame had no name until that moment. It had never been needed. Now it rushed in like floodwater. They sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves, as if clothing could undo awareness. But it wasn't their bodies that had changed. It was their understanding of them. Then they heard God walking in the garden. The same presence that once brought comfort now stirred fear. They hid. And when God spoke, it was with a question. Where are you? This wasn't because he didn't know, but because they no longer did. They had fractured their place in the world, and the silence that followed was louder than any punishment. They stepped forward, but not in unity. Adam spoke first and shifted the blame. Eve followed and shifted it further. Responsibility was passed down like a curse, even before it was named as one. Then God passed judgment, as a restructuring of everything they thought they understood. To the serpent, humiliation. It would crawl beneath all other creatures, forever bound to dust. To Eve, pain, where there had been peace. Creation itself would come with suffering. Desire would clash with power. To Adam, the ground, once freely yielding, would resist. Life would now be a struggle for survival. Labour would precede sustenance. Sweat would precede death. And in the end, he would return to the same dust from which he came. But something far more permanent was yet to come. In the centre of the garden stood the tree of life. Unlike the tree of knowledge, it had never been forbidden. It had always been within reach, and yet they had never touched it. Now God feared they would. The man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out and to take also from the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. Immortality, once available, was now a danger because of what they had become. Conscious, aware, unruly, and so the second tree, the one they had not sinned to reach, was taken away as well. Cherubim were stationed at the boundary of the garden. Between them, a sword of flame was turned in every direction, cutting off the way to Eden, to eternity. The gate was sealed, closed to us, forever. And this is the part we miss when we reduce the fall to disobedience. This was the loss of innocence. It was the loss of access, the loss of simplicity, the loss of time without end. They had awakened, but that awakening came with a price. the knowledge that every moment now marched towards death. By eating, they had stepped outside the order of paradise and into a world where everything decays. The fruit gave knowledge, but it also gave something that could never be returned. And what they lost was not just Eden. They lost a chance to remain unaware of what Eden truly was. A world where the price of consciousness is everything else. Eden wasn't the first paradise, and it wasn't the last, but it may have been the only one we remember with regret. Long before Genesis, the Sumerians told of Dilmun, a land where the lion did not kill, where sickness did not spread, and where ravens did not cry. A place without death, without old age, without pain. The gods once walked there. Creation itself passed through it, but it faded. It was lost. Or maybe, like Eden, we were cast out. The Greeks spoke of the Garden of Hesperides, a hidden orchard at the edge of the world. In its centre grew golden apples, fruit of immortality, by divine daughters and a serpent, a coiled protector, a gatekeeper. Again, knowledge and eternal life sat within reach, yet remained untouchable. The Celts spoke of Avalon, the Isle of Apples, a sanctuary beyond the mist where no one aged and no one suffered, a place of peace, ruled by priestesses, where great kings go to heal, never to return. But its location is unknowable. It lies just past memory, just past myth. All these stories repeat the same shape. A paradise lost. A perfect place we're no longer allowed to enter. And always that loss comes with awakening. A question asked, a fruit taken, a veil lifted. Across cultures, paradise is remembered, never seen, always longed for. We tell ourselves it was stolen, that we were driven out. But maybe it was never ours. Maybe paradise was a containment, and we were the anomaly that slipped through the cracks. If that's true, then paradise was never meant to be permanent. It was the illusion that kept us still. And then we broke it. The world changed, or perhaps we finally saw it for what it really was. The pattern repeats. Every story of a perfect land ends the same way, with a barrier, a guardian, a punishment. Paradise is always remembered, but never returned to. Because maybe paradise can't survive knowledge. And maybe we were never meant to understand the world. We still want the garden. Every religion, every myth, every promise of salvation is built on the hope of return. Heaven, nirvana, enlightenment, all echoes of something lost. Something we were once part of, something we can no longer reach. Eden is more than a place. It's a condition, a state of being untouched by shame, untouched by consequence. It was innocence before self-awareness, comfort before questioning, like the safety of childhood before we knew what danger meant, before the world told us who to be, before it could corrupt what we were, like the moment before a secret is spoken, the breath before a truth is revealed. And we can't go back. The fall wasn't a single event. It was a transition from ignorance to knowledge, from obedience to awareness, from existing to understanding. We lost the version of ourselves who could live in it, the version that didn't ask questions, that didn't know what death was, that didn't see itself as naked. We try to return, but always through mirrors. We seek it in religion, in philosophy, in dreams of utopia, but every path bends forward, not back. Every road out of exile leads somewhere new, but never to where we began. The myth persists because the longing is real. Somewhere deep inside, we all remember the garden, not in detail, but in feeling. A time before pain, before responsibility, before the weight of being human set in. That's the true legacy of Eden. Not just the loss, but the memory of what it felt like to know we had something to lose. So we keep searching. But maybe exile isn't a punishment. Maybe it's the price of awakening. Maybe it's what makes us human. We still want the garden, but we wouldn't fit in it anymore.